Hi, so today I'm going to be doing a review of Department 19 by Will Hill. Now this book is about a boy named Jamie Carpenter, whose father died in front of him about 2 years ago, and then fast forward 2 years on, his mother is kidnapped and he's taken by these strange monsters into this department called 19, which is a government secret government agency. So when Will reaches Department 19, he discovers that vampires and monsters and werewolves and all that are real, and that his father did work with them and everything. And so he has to go on a mission to try and save his mother and protect her from the kidnappers that have kidnapped her. But unfortunately the kidnappers that have kidnapped his mother are evil vampires, especially I think he's the second most evil vampire in the world? I'm not quite sure. But yeah, he's kidnapped her, and so he must go and find her and save her from the evil vampires. Now, I had a couple of issues with this book. The first one kind of being that it kind of swaps narrative in the chapters. The chapters alternate between narratives, however it's not really sure what's going on and which narrative you are reading about, or it also swaps between times. Like, you can be reading a passage in present day and then you can be reading a passage that happened about 100 years ago, and I just found that very confusing, and it took me about like a quarter away of the book to finally figure out and decipher what was going on in these different passages. And for that it really took away what the story was about, as it took like half the book for me to decide what was actually going on and actually get a full grasp and understanding of what was going on in this book. The characters are very interesting. Jamie was an interesting protagonist. He was very weak, he didn't really seem to think things through, but he did grow, and there was a few character development moments with him, and so he did grow into an interesting character at the end of this book. But yeah, the character Frankenstein was interesting. I liked seeing how he had been developed and everything in this book, how he'd been changed for this book, and so that was interesting. It was an interesting take on Frankenstein for sure. This book does have a lot of action in it, but one thing is that I don't know if it's the writing style of this book, but the action was very confusing. It happened really quickly and it wasn't clear exactly what had happened. It was very quick and rushed, and so you could easily miss something in this book. I know later on in the book a major character died. Spoiler alert, I'm not going to say which character, but yeah, a major character did die. And I don't think I even picked up on it until like they mentioned, oh, this character died and everything, oh, how sad. And I was like, what? And I had to go back and read it, and I missed it because it was just so fast. Like, it was just one sentence about how this character had just suddenly died in this action-packed scene fight that had been going on. And I just didn't like that. I felt it was too rushed, the action in this book, and I would have much preferred it to be slowed down and, so I could actually fully understand and appreciate the action that was going on and enjoy and myself. Because of this, I couldn't really immerse myself in this book. A lot of the time there'd be really fast-paced action scenes, or the rest of the book was just really slow. Like, a big chunk of this book was really slow. And last, there were a couple of really interesting scenes with some really interesting characters. I just felt that there were too many rushed scenes for me to really fully enjoy this book. The plots in this book were interesting. For the most part, I managed to guess ahead of time. Like, I wasn't completely sure, but I managed to guess ahead of time, the plot twist and everything. But it wasn't so obvious that it made me angry. It was interesting, but I would say this book more is aimed at a younger audience, maybe 12, 13 plus, because, maybe they might not be able to guess the plot twist and everything after reading a lot of books. I mean, I have a pretty good understanding of what's coming in books, so maybe 12, 13-year-olds would really enjoy this and the action and the characters. But I feel for someone my age who's read a lot of books, there just wasn't enough character development, good plot twists, and that, as I said, the writing was kind of all over the place in some points, which really took away from the book. It really did have the potential to be a great story. It's something that I really would have loved to read about and enjoy, but as I said, I just couldn't immerse myself fully in this story. I was either confused or bored. There were a couple of scenes where I really, really liked, and I just wish the rest of the book had just been like that, and I would have loved it. All in all, I don't really know how I feel about this book. I can't even decide if I'm going to pick up the sequel or not. I think there's a series on this, and I'm kind of at the point where I want to, but I don't want to. I think what I might do is see if my library has it and maybe borrow it from there, if I run out of books one day to read. But I definitely don't think I will be buying this, the sequel. because I just think there are better books that I could be spending my money on, but I might end up borrowing it from the library and reading it that way. So in the end, I think I'm going to rate this book 2.5, maybe 3 stars, but probably 2.5 stars. I couldn't get fully into this book, and when I did, it would swap out back into the full fast-paced action scenes, the confusing narrative, and it just had a lot of potential, but it just kind of seemed to fall flat in a lot of places for me. If I was younger and hadn't read much books before, and this was like a first book into something, maybe I would have enjoyed it more, but I just feel like right now there are a lot of better books out there, and everything, which is quite disappointing, as this book did have the potential to be great. The storyline sounded really interesting. It just wasn't for me. So let me know in the comments below if you've read this book, if you've read it, what you thought of it, if you've read this series, and if the series does get better, and if you think I should maybe read the series and give it another chance. Also, like this video if you liked it, and subscribe if you'd like to see more book reviews from me. And I guess I'll see you next time. Okay, bye!